it's time again to go back into Bikini Bottom and visit our friends in the classic era of SpongeBob. Unfortunately for us, this is the last era season of classic SpongeBob, though hopefully it won't get too bad from here. Let's hope. So yes, this is the last season before the movie aired in 2004. It has aired for a period of 2002 to 2004, making the longest era so far, but do not get too shocked by that because the way later season will have even longer air releases because SpongeBob does not seasons are not based off the year and just random arbitrary stuff. But anyway, yeah, let's get into it. The season 3 has some pretty interesting episodes. Some of my favorites, like in fact, there's a lot of episodes I had a hard time figuring out what my favorite of this season was, and there's a lot at the bottom which are kind of forgettable, oddly enough. Of all the classic episodes, there are a couple duds here. Not terrible like the last two episodes of the last season, in my opinion, which weren't even terrible anyway, but they're just not high quality like the rest of the episodes. But hey, let's see what season 3 has to offer and what is the best episodes of this season. Number 35, Krabby Land. Krabby Land falls under the later parts of season 3, where they kind of released a couple episodes, which I don't remember them airing that much at all as a kid, and so I'm actually not as familiar with some of these episodes, at least near the end of this series season compared to others. You can find all these episodes at the bottom here because a lot of them just aren't that great. Krabby Land is one of the most forgettable episodes of SpongeBob. It's just an episode where SpongeBob tortures himself to entertain some annoying kids, and yeah, that's basically the whole concept of the episode. There's also some weird fetish material in this episode, maybe, where like SpongeBob gets tortured by these big brawly men. Yeah, this episode doesn't do a whole lot for me, to be honest. It just yeah, you hear SpongeBob hitting himself multiple times to entertain some dumb kids because Mr. Krabs is an asshole.
The children? I don't care about the children. I just care about their parents' money.
Number 34, The Sponge Who Could Fly. This is the quote-unquote lost episode. Technically, it was never lost, it's just a joke. And it's about SpongeBob learning to fly because he wants to fly, just because he wants to. And all the Bikini Bottom people just hate him for some reason, even though he helps them out and does good deeds for them. Like, SpongeBob does jack shit bad in this episode, but for some reason, everyone hates him. I guess his ass is too big for everyone to handle. So yeah, the episode was better when it was just a bunch of crappy walk cycles, in my opinion. I'm not a big fan of the whole town hates a certain character because of some arbitrary reason, and this one didn't really do much for me. It's a special, which means it's even longer for no reason. Best part of the episode is the patchy stuff, which shouldn't be the best part of the episode, just some random live action filler stuff, but it is the best part of this episode, unfortunately. Also, I didn't know as a kid the quote unquote man named Old Man Jenkins is always changing for episode, and this is my least favorite version. It's just some really annoying character who just hates SpongeBob for no reason. He just kills him, and I don't get it. As a kid, I always thought this character was Old Man Jenkins, but it's just some random old fish that appears in backgrounds. This guy cracked me up as a kid. I don't know why. This old man, I like this old man. The other old man, I do not like that old man. Number 33, Missing Identity. I really hope you like the character doing the same thing over and over again. This is actually the only episode I do not remember watching as a kid, maybe because the episode is one of the most bland episodes in the entirety of the classic series of SpongeBob. SpongeBob forgets his name tag, and then he has to retrace his staff, so he repeats the same actions over and over again in order to figure that out. It's really not funny. Yeah, he eats Gary's food every time. There's some not bad jokes in here, but the fact that it just goes on and on and on the same thing over and over again is just not entirely funny. Patrick forgets to say hi to SpongeBob, and that's it. SpongeBob does the same thing over and over again. Yeah, pretty repetitive episode, and you kind of see why it's so low in their list. Number 32, Born Again Crabs. This is another one of those later season episodes which I kind of find forgettable. I haven't seen this much as a kid, and it doesn't really stick out that much either. Mr. Krabs tries to be nice and not greedy, but that last 5 seconds until he sells SpongeBob for like a quarter, something like that. And that's kind of the episode ends. But Mr. Krabs learns to be not to be greedy. No, not really. And overall, there's not a whole lot of funny jokes other than there's no money in here. It's okay, but it's nothing groundbreaking. You'll kind of forget about it after you've seen it. Number 31, Clams. If you want to see a recreation of Jaws / Moby Dick, here you go, with SpongeBob characters. I do not know why they're out in sea and how that even works if they're already underwater, but oh well. They don't use the idea this is like the goo like they originally did. Like I was able to defend that, but this I can't defend. There's just a giant ocean inside of the ocean. Yeah, whatever. This episode doesn't really do a whole lot for me. Mostly because this episode doesn't really have a whole lot of jokes going on with it. Just kind of the characters kind of being miserable in the ocean. But luckily it's not a very long episode. It's like not a terrible one, just doesn't do a whole lot for me. Number 30, Ugh, or SpongeBob BC, Before Comedy. That's the full title, by the way. This is a full SpongeBob special where basically SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward just mess with fire as cavemen the whole time. It's not as interesting as SB 129, in case you're wondering. Is it 123 or 129? I think it's 123. Most of the conflict of the episode comes from the Patchy segments, where Patchy and his parrot Potty fight over what's better, the past or the future. And yeah, it's okay. It doesn't really have a whole lot going for it. Or in the fact that Patrick plays a caveman. And then there's a weird ass song at the very end about the worlds colliding that sounds really weird about not running and hiding. It also plays clips from SB123 in there, which is kind of weird. It's not bad, but this episode is definitely a lot longer than it has any right to be, since not a whole lot happens in it. Number 29, Borg. SpongeBob and Squidward get convinced that Mr. Krabs is a robot because SpongeBob saw a movie. Well, there's some funny jokes. The concept is kind of too dumb to exist. I can see why SpongeBob might believe this, but Squidward actually believing it is kind of ridiculous. The episode actually has pretty good jokes and pretty good moments, just the concept is not the most interesting one in the world, especially since there have been a robot Mr. Krabs. I guess the characters can't distinct between what a real crustacean looks like and a robot, but whatever.
Just wanted to tell you that Squidward loves you.
Get back to work, Mr. Squidward.
Number 28, Sponge Guard on duty. This is another one of those beach episodes that'll make you question the logics of the SpongeBob universe, as SpongeBob can't swim despite the fact that he's a fish. Well, a sponge, to be exact, a sea sponge. The episode is SpongeBob sucks at being a lifeguard after being tricked into becoming one. Well, tricking people to thinking he's a lifeguard because he wants to be cool, like Larry. This episode's okay. Not much more to say about it. Number 27, Rock-a-Bye Balvive. That's how you say it. In this episode, Patrick and SpongeBob become parents to a baby scallop. And Patrick's a bad dad, and SpongeBob acts like the mom, I guess. And yeah, this episode's not bad. I think it's a classic episode. I just don't really care for it that much because the jokes don't do a whole lot for me. And the meme from this episode doesn't really work a whole lot for me. And the episode's fine, but the people who use it usually have really bad examples, what they're trying to make an example of. And it's just because of that, this joke doesn't work for me anymore, because I see so many people use this meme and don't have anything funny to say. Like, look at this, it makes a whole lot of sense, and it doesn't at all. Number 26, Party Pooper Pants or SpongeBob's House Party. For some reason, the specials of Season 3 aren't considered the best episodes of the series. In fact, this episode, I've seen a lot of people not like it. I think it's funny. For some reason, SpongeBob gets hyper detailed about his party, and there is funny jokes about it, even though it is a little out of character, and I don't mind that. It's funny. Oh, this is a special, so there's a Patchy segment where he's also throwing a party. It's okay. I like how SpongeBob wears his bunny costume for 1 minute, but despite that, I still own a toy of him wearing the exact costume. And there's also a very weird song at the end of the song about going down to see SpongeBob and how SpongeBob's your best friend and you're a thinger rocket, I guess, whatever that is. Number 25, The Great Snail Race. SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward all race their snails, or in Patrick's case, a rock. This also has some great jokes, but unfortunately there are scenes that some people really don't like. In fact, a lot of people do not like this episode at all, and I can kind of see why. SpongeBob acts like a complete jackass to Gary, and Gary's eyes explode, which is kind of disturbing to look at. Despite that, the jokes in this episode are too funny to pass up, and even though some of the concepts just don't really work that well, I don't really like fan of gross out, and just seeing Gary's eyes explode just don't work for me, but the rest of it I do like.
The first place snail racing cup presented to Squidward, Tortellini.
Number 24, My Pretty Seahorse. My Pretty Seahorse is a good episode, however, it doesn't have a whole lot going for it. It has some great jokes, but it kind of doesn't have a great ending. SpongeBob gets a seahorse, and then it goes away, and then I guess it still eats stuff, but yeah, there's some great jokes from some of the characters, and the idea of SpongeBob getting a seahorse, and the fact that horses are seahorses in this world are kind of funny, but besides that, there's not a whole lot to the episode. Number 23, Nasty Patty. One of the darkest episodes of SpongeBob, where Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob think they killed the health inspector, and by all means, it looks like he does die here. Just so happens to he fainted and passed out from eating a fly more than anything. This episode doesn't actually have a whole lot of jokes for it, other than the fact that they're burying a body. It is a very unique and very dark episode of a unique atmosphere, and I do like that, but I wasn't laughing out loud for it, even though I do like more darker humor, especially in kids' cartoons. I kind of find it funny. But yeah, other than the concept, there's not a whole lot going on for this episode. It's fun, but not good enough. Number 22, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 4. SpongeBob gets Mermaid Man's belt, and for some reason Mermaid Man's belt has the ability to shrink things down, but doesn't know how to revert anything back to the way it is, and he ends up shrinking the whole town. Yeah, this is kind of a very weird episode, especially when everyone goes inside of SpongeBob and kicks his brain. I mean, that is kind of funny, though, the characters beating the crap out of SpongeBob's interiors because he shrank them all down. The reason this episode is ranked here is because of Patrick, actually, because he has the best jokes where he's playing with a school-word action figure and describing what the word wombo is. Number 21, I had an accident. This is the episode where a guy in a gorilla suit is underwater and he beats the crap out of Sandy and Patrick. It's so surreal, but you gotta love it. I mean, look at this thing. Like, what were they thinking with this? After injuring his butt, SpongeBob decides he's going to stay inside for the rest of his life and just filter feed like regular sponges do. And Sandy and Patrick try to get him out until a gorilla man attacks them.
Indoors, indoors, indoors. Take it away, Penny.
That Penny has the most beautiful voice.
Number 20, the algae's always greener. In this episode, Plankton makes a machine that makes him swap lives with Mr. Krabs. But he learns that Mr. Krabs' life is kind of crap. This episode's funny, but I think it's a little over-exaggerated. But yeah, I guess it's kind of the point. In a way that I find funny, but not funny enough. I feel like they could have done a little bit more with this concept. I feel like it should have been ranked a little higher if it tweaked its humor a little bit. Because other than a couple jokes, for the most part, I don't really remember a whole lot about this episode other than the disgusting Krabby Patty or the fact that Mr. Krabs is naked in this alternate universe and the victory screech. Other than that, everything else doesn't really do a whole lot for me. It's a good episode, but not. I feel like it should be a great episode with this concept. Oh well, it's pretty good still. Number 19, Squam Returns, and so does his ab. I guess since his debut episode is one of the highest ranked episodes of SpongeBob, they decided to bring back Squilliam Fancy Son. He's going to torture Squidward, I guess, because that's just his life, apparently. And yeah, Squidward tricks him into thinking that he owns a 5-star restaurant, and it goes well at first until SpongeBob forgets that he forgot his name. Conceptually, this episode doesn't have a whole lot going for it, but execution-wise, it's pretty great. I like it quite a bit.
Hurry up! What do you think I'm paying you for? You don't pay me.
And Squilliam, he's just a funny character in general. He's Squidward with a unibrow, who sounds like this. Number 18, Pranks-a-lot. SpongeBob and Patrick get some prank stuff, mostly this invisible spray paint that makes them invisible, so they decide to pretend to be ghosts and prank the whole town. It's fun, but, you know, it's good. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about this episode. It's fine. Number 17, New Student Starfish. In this episode, Patrick goes to boating school. He doesn't actually go boat, but he just goes to boating school with SpongeBob because he wants to be near SpongeBob. And that's the whole concept of the episode. Oddly enough, this episode's hilarious. You wouldn't think of a generic concept like that would be that funny, but it is.
Big fat meanie. Patrick, you can't do that. She's the teacher.
What about the teacher? What? As if I really look like this.
School is for chumps.
This episode does have a weird ending where they're trying to get a light bulb for an egg that's randomly in the boating school classroom. It's very weird, and I think there are other parts they're actually doing the regular school-related things and having the arguments, and Schools for Chumps was funnier than the light bulb stuff, but it is not bad. Just a random egg that is there, I guess. Whatever. Number 16, Club SpongeBob. This was actually my favorite episode as a kid, so I'm surprised it's ranked number 16, but there's, I think, better episodes. The reason I like this episode so much as a kid is the food. The food looked really good. I wanted to eat all these food, even though I don't think the Magic Concha will let me have anything to eat.
I have something to eat.
No.
Could I have something to eat?
No.
Could I have something to eat?
This episode is still classic. If you don't know, Squidward gets trapped into SpongeBob's club in the middle of kelp forest, meaning they're all trapped there, and the Magic Concha is basically useless. I don't know why. This episode has great moments, but I don't like as much as I used to, and I can't really explain why. It's not bad, it still has some great moments, but overall, not the best SpongeBob episode, and yay, it's not bad. Number 15, SpongeBob meets the Strangler. In SpongeBob, you constantly have a character that gets fucked with. Sometimes they don't deserve it, but there's definitely a guy who deserves it. It's definitely a criminal guy who wants to kill SpongeBob. So yeah, this episode works pretty well just because of that. Though, I would actually rank this higher, but there's one thing that bothered me about this episode. At one point, SpongeBob steps into the guy's eyes with spiked cleats, and his feet go straight into his eye sockets. It's not that gross compared to some things we'll see later on in the SpongeBob series, but as a kid, I remember this disturbing me a lot. And it's really not that bad, but I do not like it. Not one bit. Also, this quote-unquote tough tavern should have been the Salty Splatoon, if you ask me. Number 14, as seen on TV. Mr. Krabs makes a cheap commercial for the Krusty Krab, even though everyone knows about it in Bikini Bottom, but hey, it's going to boost up scales because everyone watches TV at 3 o'clock in the morning. SpongeBob gets an ego because of this and thinks he's a star because he was in like 5 seconds of the commercial. This is one of those basic concepts, but execution's great. From the making of the commercial to the commercial itself to SpongeBob misinterpreting everything as him being a star and his ego is hilarious. I love it.
Best time to wear a striped sweater is all the time.
So when making this list, I realized because of how terrible serialized it is that they didn't count 2 episodes as season 3 because they aired a little earlier. And yeah, I gotta put them right here now. These are really good episodes, but because I kind of already started this list, I'm just going to talk about them right here. So let's talk about the 2 episodes that I didn't put on this list initially because of serial. I should have double checked it, but it looked like I had all the episodes. So yeah, I won't make a mistake again. I'm very sorry. So one episode is Just One Bite, which is a 9 out of 10 episode, so I guess it fits here, where Squidward tries Krabby Patties and ends up loving them. It's a classic episode where SpongeBob makes an iconic face and Squidward gets to finally engorge himself. A little bit too much, though, because it goes straight to the thighs and then he blows up. The other episode's The Bully, is where SpongeBob has a new classmate called Flats, who's a flat fish, who's just hilarious in general, who wants to kick SpongeBob's butt.
My way! Out of my way! Can't you see he's gonna kick my butt? Hi there, young people. Nice day today.
To make this character even funnier, he's played by a guy who played a famous 80s bully in Back to the Future. That's right, it's Biff from Back to the Future, but he's a fish now, who is a flat fish. Even though I wasn't able to rank these 2 episodes, I feel like this is a pretty good spot to put them. 9 out of 10. It fits them pretty well. Number 13, Doin' Time. This is one of the most bizarre episodes of the series, where Miss Puff goes to prison and SpongeBob tries to break her out, and it turns out just a weird fever dream she keeps having over and over again, kind of like a Groundhog Day. Though the part about the repeating is only a part of the ending, it's just a very bizarre episode. It's funny, but yeah, it's great, but really weird. That's all I can say about this. Number 12, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 5. They made quite a lot of these. The SpongeBob cast gets superpowers from the costumes they wear because that's how superpowers work in the SpongeBob universe, apparently. Conceptually, I love this episode, so yeah, don't have a lot to say about this episode. It's fun. Number 11, the camping episode. Who could forget the campfire song? A classic. I gotta point out, this is the season where you first get to see SpongeBob's cheeks being drawn sideways rather than upwards like it was in previous seasons, and you'll see this a lot more in pretty much all the artwork and stuff like that. I prefer it pointing upwards because that's classic SpongeBob and it looks more natural rather than this weird side view. The camping episode is a classic, so yeah. Number 10, Plankton's Army. One thing you'll notice about Season 3 is that there are actually very little Plankton episodes. In fact, you'll see a lot of very little Plankton episodes entirely in this season. Well, this is a plot point they'll use a lot in later seasons. In Season 1, 2, and 3, there's not a whole lot of Plankton-centric episodes. It's kind of a funny episode, seeing there's millions of Plankton. Plankton decides to recruit his other relatives, and they're all Hicks, which is kind of funny. Oh no, I said kind of. It is funny. Well, it wouldn't be ranked this high if I didn't find it funny. Plankton even gets the lucrative Krabby Patty formula, even though it actually isn't the real Krabby Patty formula, but you know, he got close enough. And yeah, this whole ending and the whole episode in general is pretty great, and if you haven't seen it, I recommend go watching it instead of hearing what my weird ass has to say about these episodes. Watch them for yourself, sucker. Number 9, the Snowball Effect. There's nothing better than getting a snow day and this episode coming on, representing the perfect snow day, having a snowball fight with your friend and then your weird neighbor who hates you all but gets in the fight anyway because he's pet. And you forget failing at making snowballs but instead making DNA coils. This is one of the most cozy episodes of SpongeBob and I love it quite a bit. I probably should rate it a 10 now I think about it, but okay, well we'll keep it at 9 because that's what I rated it here. Or maybe a 10, we'll see. Number 8, Can You Spare a Dime? We've seen tons of episodes where SpongeBob and Patrick annoy Squidward. This is an episode where the vice versa happens. Squidward annoys the crap out of SpongeBob, and SpongeBob gets super pissed off because Squidward's a quitting and can't get a job after quitting the Krusty Krab. This episode's great, and I remember it playing all the time as a kid. Just the idea of Squidward being a deadbeat loser, not having a job, is classic. I can relate to you, Squidward. I can relate. Well, we used to be able to relate, but not for long.
Hey, where you going?
Do my job.
You have a job?
Why wouldn't I?
Number 7, the Krusty Krab training video. This is the episode that I always wanted to see every time I was watching SpongeBob. I don't know, it was one of my favorite episodes, but it really rarely played, and it was always a special treat when it played, because it's such an interesting concept. I don't know why, as a kid, I always like parodies of this sort, where it's just a weird in-universe thing, or oh, this is a training video for a typical employee of the Krusty Krab, but you would never see this typically because, you know, you were never going to get employed by it. So they made up this fictitious thing just for you. It's kind of fun. The narration and all the gags work incredibly well. In fact, this episode has been parodied and done so many times because of how great it is. Just from the hoopla guy to poop to a large sofa, everything's a classic in this episode. Number 6, Wet Painters. Another one of the elite episodes of Season 3, where SpongeBob and Patrick have to paint Mr. Krabs' house, and if they get any paint on anything in there, they'll get their asses cut off, basically. There is so many funny jokes in this episode, it's hard to choose one to make a clip out of, so I'm not going to choose any of them. So screw you guys, you gotta watch these episodes for yourself. But if you have technology, it shouldn't be too hard to find this episode. It's great. I don't want to tell you anything else about it, because everyone knows about this episode. And I really like how Mr. Krabs' house looks in white. I can see why you wanted them to paint it. Number 5, One Krabs Trash. In this episode, Mr. Krabs scams a bunch of people by selling trash at a yard sale. One of those things is a novelty drinking hat for a guy who was number 1 that SpongeBob buys. But it turns out the hat's worth millions of dollars, so Mr. Krabs tries to desperately get it back. So much so that he actually goes grave digging. And it's one of the funniest scenes ever. This episode is so funny that I was tempted to put it at number 1, but there's 4 other episodes I thought were slightly funnier. It is one of the best episodes of the series.
Am I really gonna defile this grave for money? Of course I am!
Number 4, Idiot Box.
Squidward's such a jerk.
If you have a lot of imagination, this episode will be great for you, because this episode requires you to have imagination. Otherwise, you'll be stuck inside of a cardboard box. I mentioned this in my previous 2 SpongeBob videos, but what makes a really good Squidward episode is basically the torture coming from himself. It's not Patrick and SpongeBob really doing anything to him. It's just him being so obsessed with whatever they're doing because he is so stuck in an adult world that he can't fathom actually having imagination or having fun with something, that he gets sucked into doing something. And that's what makes these episodes so funny. Plus, there's so many funny jokes about it. I feel like this is one of those episodes that everyone's seen. I mean, most of these episodes people have seen, and this is definitely one you've seen because you've seen the imagination thing. It's such an iconic thing that he became a part of SpongeBob's moveset in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. Why am I mentioning it? Well, just because. Idiot Box is not for idiots, it's for smart people. The next episode you cannot watch anymore. Well, unless you have a DVD set like I did. Number 3, Medlife Crustation. Unfortunately, Nickelodeon decided they're going to pull this one off the air and from all DVD sets, so it's kind of hard to find footage of it. Otherwise, you'll have a buffering symbol on YouTube just trying to find little clips of this episode. This episode, if you haven't seen it, I recommend trying to find it anywhere because it is one of the best episodes of SpongeBob in general. It is so funny. The problem is SpongeBob decided they were going to go a little too dark for this episode and have a panty rage, which is the whole reason the episode got blocked. As a kid, I didn't really know what that meant. I don't know why Mr. Krabs was taking his mom's underwear, but that's the whole episode. It is funny, but unfortunately I can't really get good clips for this episode because of the aforementioned thing that this episode is banned. Though you can watch it if you want to. I highly recommend doing it since a character having a midlife crisis in SpongeBob is hilarious. Number 2, Chocolate with Nuts. This is one of those episodes where I'm also going to say this is probably one of the best episodes of SpongeBob in general, and I think you know it. They even sold chocolate from this episode in real life. I saw it once and meant to pick it up, but it was like $5. I'm not going to pick up a $5 chocolate bar just because it's SpongeBob. Everything about this episode is great, from them trying to sell chocolate bars to a bunch of weird consumers, to the guy screaming chocolate, to the guy with glass bones, to the old woman on her deathbed. Everything about this episode is an instant class.
What? Chocolate! I can't hear you! They're selling chocolate! They're selling chocolate? Yeah!
This is an episode that you must watch if you have not seen SpongeBob before. If you haven't seen any of the episodes, I recommend watching. This is one of the top episodes I recommend watching. Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense what I'm saying? You haven't seen SpongeBob, and you haven't seen some of the episodes, this is the one that you must put in your top priority. It is that good. Number 1, No Weenies Allowed. This episode is possibly my favorite episode of the whole series, but I do not know. It is super, super funny. It has my favorite joke of the series, actually.
Salty Spittoon, how tough are you?
How tough am I?
Wow.
I don't know why, but that's one of my favorite jokes. Just the fact it stays like, wow. It does change later in the episode back to mom, but the fact that it's just like, wow. That really cracks me up. Also, that guy there, I think his name is Reg, is also voiced by Biff from Back to the Future. I thought I should mention it here because I know someone will mention it in the comment. I also love the fact there's this random guy who looks exactly like SpongeBob, except for the fact he has black hair. He's also a drifter who heard his club is pretty tough. SpongeBob just tries to get in this club, by the way, because you know the concept of the episode. That's the whole concept. He wants to get in this rough club, and he tries every way to get in there, like pretending to be a guy's tattoo and doing a dance on the arm. Otherwise, this episode's really funny. I love it. I also can't forget to mention that Patrick beats himself up in order to make SpongeBob look tough. Like, I don't even know how he does all this stuff, but it's just great. I love this episode. Like, thinking back, this is probably my favorite episode of the entire series. And that is SpongeBob Season 3. Next time, we are not going to be covering Season 4 because the movie came out and we're going to be looking at the SpongeBob movie. Season 3 is a classic episode of SpongeBob. We will see where it goes from here. Season 3 was pretty great, as you can probably tell based on the episodes that are in here, even though there are some that I thought were a little bit more forgettable than the past 2 seasons and lacked a little bit less charm. You know, there were some really great episodes, but some of the lower episodes I feel like weren't as good as the previous one. What do you think about Season 3? Let me know in the comment section below what your favorite and least favorite episode of SpongeBob Season 3 is. And if you like this series, make sure to let me know in the comment section down below. We've got another big thing for SpongeBob coming next, the really big thing known as the SpongeBob movie. So I'll see you then, and until then, thank you for watching.